Welcome, everybody, once again to the Sleeping with Sonja podcast. And I am thrilled to have with me today a friend that I met in my travels, weirdly enough, who has since become such an inspiration to my life, Mr. Leslie Awasom.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm very happy to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So before we dive into our conversation, I think it's important for people to recognize something that I think you have spoken about, the power of networking and how you and I actually met at sort of a networking event.
Absolutely. Your network, it's commonly said that your network is your net worth. That's not a It's not a
Mm,
simple statement. It carries a lot of power in it. Networking is everything. You got to get out there and meet people, talk to people, and you get to learn a lot from people because if you think about it, everything that you want or everything that you seek here on earth, it has to come through people. So it's by
mm,
going out there and putting yourself in those circles of people that you want to be like that you're going to get some of the things that you want. So networking is truly
it's
everything,
true.
and I'm glad I got to meet you at this event, Sonia.
Of course, of course. So we were back at the Nursing Empowerment Summit in Washington, D.C. when we first met. And I think it's worth mentioning. I'm going to give a little bit of a background about your bio so that we can really dive into a conversation about some of the topics that I think you and I both really strongly feel passionate about, including things like growth mindset and the evolution of how we are to grow, not only as professionals, but as people, right? So Leslie Awasom is the Director of Operations and co-founder of Excite Capital Investment LLC. He oversees company operations, market data analysis, cash flow, and budget analysis. I have no idea what those things mean. That's why we have you here. As an entrepreneur and real estate investor, Mr. Awasom began his journey in real estate investing with single family properties in 2017 and transitioned to multifamily in 2019. Together with his partners, they currently own and manage a portfolio of multifamily real estate. All right, I actually highlighted this $168 million, not 168,000, $168 million. So, in addition to ventures in real estate, Leslie founded the e-commerce company and co-founded a wellness clinic in Baltimore, Maryland in 2021. His training includes being a nurse anesthetist and earning a master's degree from the University of Baltimore, Maryland. I'm sorry, University of Maryland, Baltimore. Got that backwards. He remains deeply passionate about building businesses and thrives on adding value to individuals' lives to help shape their financial futures. And of course, outside of work, Leslie has a cherished role as a husband and father to three beautiful children. So, Leslie, how do you stay
Yes, Sonia.
grounded? How do you stay grounded? That is a lot going on, and it's incredible.
It is a lot going on, and that's what keeps me grounded actually.
Mm,
Because it's
mm,
funny. Like that's what I enjoy doing. So being able to put myself in these positions to challenge myself to grow,
hmm.
to be constantly learning and constantly seeking ways to give value,
Right.
that keeps me grounded. Doing anything else, I feel like I'm not living the life on purpose that I really want. So I
Mm.
enjoy doing what I do, and that's pretty much the simple answer to that question.
I think one of the things I remember most about you were one of the speakers at the event that we attended in Washington, D.C., and I was there as a vendor. And I had a table with a little book signing. And I remember listening to you. And one of the most fascinating things that really caught my attention was the fact that you have this sense of discipline. And it's not just discipline, it's this sense that if you have a routine that's going to set you up for success, you can achieve anything.
Absolutely. Human character, it's probably one of our biggest obstacles to growth, right? So
Mm,
one of the things I learned early on my personal development journey, was to eliminate certain distractions, to be able, because it doesn't matter how great of an idea you have, it doesn't matter how great of a vision you have, if you're not disciplined. towards taking action towards those ideas is just a fancy dream. It's just a dream and it's never going to come to fruition. So I had to develop like whatever disciplines I could at that point in time that made sense for my life so that I could keep doing the things that I enjoy doing, keep going after the goals that I love doing. And then the more
Mm,
you do it, it now becomes more of a habit that you keep doing it over and over again. So it has been a progressive journey. It's not one of those things that just I just woke up from bed and learned, but I had to push myself to develop that discipline. And then when you discipline yourself that way, you start seeing the results. It becomes real. Now you want to keep doing more and keep pushing forward.
sure. And I I think you and I can both attest to the fact that when you have a background in training in nurse anesthesia, when you've gone through the rigors of that sort of profession, it almost makes it feel like figuring anything else out is kind of doable.
Oh,
It's sort
absolutely.
of it established that bar where if I can do this and I can keep people alive and I can provide this level of care and hypervigilance under these crazy conditions, I can figure out pretty much anything else.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And that's what I tell my anesthesia colleagues because a lot of times people look at some of the things that we've been able to accomplish at Exact Capital and like, wow, how are you able to do this? How are you able to do all this? And I tell them, listen, the discipline it takes for you to become an anesthesia provider, if you apply that same discipline in anything that you do in a business world, you're going to be super successful, right?
Mm,
Because to become an anesthesia provider, you got to have a certain level of intelligence. The academic side is very challenging. Going through the clinical rotations of doing all of that, you get bombarded with all kinds of challenges that all kinds of obstacles that get put along your way. And then taking care of the patients in the hospital itself. Like you have somebody's life in your hands, we're talking about life and death. And you get to
mm,
manage people through some of the most complex procedures that you could think of, and they come out alive and comfortable at the end, right? You know,
mm,
I think we underestimate what we are doing on a daily basis because it just
mm,
becomes like a job. I'm doing this and all of that. We underestimate what it took for us to get there. But what I've learned is like applying that same kind of discipline in business outside of like a job scenario can lead to a significant amount of growth in whatever direction you want to go. So I think going through that education and going through that career path sets you up for success in many ways. You just have to know how to use it, and have to want it to go out and seek it.
mm. And I think one of the things that people may not recognize about a career in anesthesia and in nursing to begin with is the level of you have to have a certain subset of people skills and you
Oh
have
yeah.
to know how to have nuanced conversations with not just patients and their families, but with all the other providers, everyone that you're working with. And that's not the kind of stuff you learn on the fly. That's the sort of knowledge
No.
that you gain through experience and interaction. And I would imagine that has served you tremendously well in your transition into business.
Oh, it definitely has. Because one of the most important skills you could develop in life is listening skills, right? The biggest piece of communication is being able to be present and listening, and that's one of the things that I enjoyed about healthcare. It's talking and listening to patients, trying to not look at the world from not see the world from the way I see things, but try to see things from their perspective. And believe it or not, that's helped me a lot in business. Because once you're able to walk in the other person's shoes, then you're truly able to be able to provide value or to communicate with that person in a way that actually provides value to them. And that patience that you develop from dealing with some of the challenging patients or some of those challenging situations or even challenging situations with colleagues at work, you know, all of those things. It's funny because I can name thousands and thousands of scenarios where you could transfer that from the professional world to the business world. Same
Mm.
kind of scenario, just different setting.
That the level of transferable skills that come from what you do there every day. I think that one of the major influences that you have now is you provide sort of this blueprint of you can start here. And I don't want to call it a stepping stone, but in many ways, you can say, this is where you can begin. But now look at the many ways that you can branch out. And I think what's so important for us, not only as healthcare professionals, but as humans, is to remember that we're so much more than our role. We're not just the letters after our name. And we have such potential to grow beyond whatever it is that we've achieved. You don't necessarily have to just climb upwards. You can go outwards in many different directions and find that sort of sense of passion and purpose that may not necessarily exist going to work every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I even really dive into that, I gotta say that for some people, that passion is going to work every day and doing that,
Mm,
right? And
yeah,
that's what
of
they
course.
strive for. That's where they get their energy from. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But on the other hand, right, there's don't limit yourself to that because that's what you've walked through. If you have that passion to seek and do something else, there's so much more that you could do, and I'm humbled that you see me as somebody that is setting that example for others because I really just got on this path because I was seeking for somebody else. I was looking for somebody else that I walked down the path that I could learn from and I could not see the person. So I just decided taking steps towards that, and now I find myself in this position. But you're absolutely right. And I go back to a quote by Tony Robbins, which says that the strongest force in human psychology is the need to stay true to who we identify ourselves to be. Your
Whew, I have
identity is
goosebumps.
very powerful,
Goosebumps.
right? Your identity is very powerful.
I have chills hearing that because
It is
it's that
powerful.
powerful.
Yeah. The way you identify yourself is who you're gonna do everything in your world to prove that person to be,
Mm,
right?
mm,
If you identify yourself as a CRNA, this is who I've always wanted to be. This is my pinnacle. This is where I want to go, right? And once you get there, it's gonna be tough for you to try to seek anything else because that is your identity. That is who you are, right? But if deep within you, you see yourself as something other than just being a CRNA. And there's nothing wrong with saying I'm a CRNA and an entrepreneur. You don't have
mm.
there's nothing that precludes you from having like another identity or adding something to that identity, right? You got to understand that it's your life and you get to choose how you want to live it, right?
That's
Don't
a
lock
fact.
yourself in any box that you want to be. So deep down within, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. From a very
Mm,
young age, I tried my hands in different entrepreneurial ventures, but none of them really worked. But I was taught that the path to having a comfortable life and secure life is to go get a job, get a
of
good
course.
job, go to school, do well in school, and then live life that way. But when I did that and I got to that, I realized that this is not truly who I am. So I started
Mm,
seeking information on what else can be out there, and that's how I came along and was able to discover what I think is my true, what I know is my true path, and I started walking down that path. And for others that are sitting there have this great idea or want to do something and always had that itch within them. Oh, I need to like I am so blessed that I got to take this journey and that I actually took the courage to be putting myself out there because of some of the conversations that I've had with other people that are reaching out to me. And I like, you know what? I've always had this itch within me, but I just haven't had that courage, you know, because I find myself now in a position of being that person that I was looking for. Now I'm being that person
right.
for others, So I'm just grateful to be in that position. So yeah.
You know, there's something to be said, I think, about, you spoke about following sort of a path that feels like it's a traditional and stable path. And I know for me, as the child of immigrants, my parents came from Macedonia, it felt as though, for us, education was a privilege. My
Oh yeah.
sister became a pharmacist. I became a nurse anesthetist. We're the first to have our doctorates in the family. And it's not something that is taken lightly by any means. So when you feel that sort of external weight of almost like a family legacy weighing upon you, it's scared to jump out of the box. You know what I
Oh,
mean? It's scary to make the choices that say, you know what, mom and dad? Instead of entering a science field, your girl wants to be a writer. She wants to go write books. I mean, cute. That's a cute hobby, but like be serious, right? So you have to, it truly is an act of courage to say, I'm going to do what I know in my soul and in my gut feels right for me and not for everyone else around me.
It is the biggest part of this whole journey. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of courage. And it's not just going against people that you look up to. It's going against what you believe, what you've been taught. This is the right path of life. This is how you're
Mm.
supposed to do it, right? And it's stepping out of that comfort, right? That comfort, that predictability, and going and trying something else that is not that you don't have that predictable path that has been designed for you, like do this is what you get. So it is scary. It is very scary.
When is the last time when's the last time you did something that scared you? What's the last big decision that you made or the big step that you took where you said this is scary and I'm terrified, but I'm going to dive in?
I just quit my job at Johns Hopkins Bayview
Woo!
in on March.
Oh baby.
That's where I'd been for like 9 years as a full-time CRNA, then went PRN and was working hard. It's where I've been. It's where I started my career as a nurse anesthetist. It's where I grew up as a provider. It's where the facility gave me so much, right? Because I never left. I never went chasing like all the big money and all of that because
Mm, mm.
right there, I had a very flexible schedule. I knew my way around. I had a great team that I worked with, so I had that predictability where I could go out and build some of the things that I've been able to build while working as a CRNA. At that facility, I met two of my business partners. Dr.
Oh,
Julius Oni was my
what a blessing. Uh-huh.
Exactly. So it's been like a real blessing to me. Dr. Julius Oni was our CEO and orthopedic surgeon,
Mm,
CEO at Excite Capital, and my business partner at Vita Nova Wellness Clinic, Dr. Joshi as well. So these are all people that I work with at that hospital, and then we became business partners. So that hospital gave me so much, right? And it's very comfortable. That like there was really I could still stay. I could have still stayed over there PRN and keep doing whatever I wanted to do. But it was a decision that I had to make at that point in time to step into the next layer of growth because your enemy to growth is comfort, right? And once
this
you
is a
get too
fact.
comfortable in, yeah, once you get too comfortable in one situation, know that the growth stops, right? So I was at the point, I'm at the point now where I know it's time to put 100% focus on the business because we've created a platform that has a tremendous opportunity to provide a lot of value to a lot of people. And that gives me the opportunity to do what I've always wanted to do. So
Mm.
walking away was a very, very difficult decision. But it was scary and exciting at the same time.
I mean, I commend you.
Thank you. Thank you. So whenever I'm taking a decision that feels that way, I know it's the right decision that's going to put me on the path to growth. So you can imagine walking away from hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary
Of
to go
course.
after to bet on yourself. So it is scary.
It's again, there's something to be said about this notion of sort of golden handcuffs. And I know even a lot of nurses feel that way, right? They feel like there's, but I'll just work one more shift, but I'll just work one more day, but I'll just do one more this, but I'll just do one more that. And I've felt that same experience from others around me who sort of look and say, oh, well, your salary is X, Y, or Z. When I stepped away from working full time to working part time hours like I'm doing now, that was intentional because I wanted to light a fire under my ass. Because I wanted to
Exactly.
say I could stay comfortable. I can go to work. I can work 3, 4, 5 days a week. I can rake in some cash. I can work some overtime. I can go take the big contracts and make the money. But what am I sacrificing for that? And what am I giving up? And I think that you and I both know that every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else in your life. So I had to
Absolutely.
pull back from my hours at the hospital so that I can focus on helping others in a way that feels pertinent to me, in a way that speaks to my spirit and to my soul. Taking care of patients is something that I don't think people really understand how much of it is an energetic exchange between the patient and the provider, like it or not. And how even a short day and a quote unquote nice day is never actually an easy day. There's no such thing as a truly easy day in healthcare. So, in order to be able to progress, and for you with your entrepreneurship and your business, taking that, cutting that cord, so to speak, it's a huge step. And it speaks a lot to the bravery of the decision that you're making here.
It's a tough decision, but it's a decision that feels right, and I know now is the right time to do it. And I am just grateful that I even have the opportunity to do this. That I found myself in this position where I'm able to make this choice and I'm able to do it and move forward. Right. I know you've probably heard a lot of people say time is money. Time is money. Right.
Yeah.
But I recently heard, listened to a speaker, and he said something that there's this misnotion that time is equals to money. The truth is, time is actually way more valuable than money,
Mm.
right? And at the end of the day, we have a very limited time here on earth, right?
Yep.
So wherever we started or wherever we are right now, there's a finite point where we all gonna get there, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
question is, what are you doing with this time that you have left here, right? Like what I tell, I tell my spouse every day, like if I don't wake up from sleep tomorrow, I'll die happy, man, because I know that every day I wake up doing the things that I enjoy doing, going after the dreams that I've always wanted to go after. So it's not necessarily about for me, it really is not about the money. I know we're gonna make a ton of money. Yes, I'm gonna make a lot
Mm.
of money from
Mm.
what I'm doing. But
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's about that journey, that process of getting up, like facing these challenges, doing that. I really, really do enjoy doing that. So as long as I'm walking in that path and I'm doing that, I know that I'm living the life that I'm supposed to be living. So that finite time that I have here left on earth, I'm using it to the best of my ability. So I could go out one day smiling without any regrets.
See, and that's, there's something about when you know that you're in alignment with whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. I had a moment today. Um, Leslie, I'm interviewing you remotely and not in person because I'm currently recording from Bali. I know, poor me.
Hmm.
It's late at night
I know,
here.
for you, right?
Poor me, poor Sonia. Um, so I've taken a trip for almost 4 weeks, for about a month. Um, Taken some time off from work to focus on that sense of why are we here, and what is our purpose, and what is this journey really all about. And I think that some of the people that I've come to know and admire over the years who are the most successful also have this sort of sense of spiritual growth and this emotional intelligence that they're incessantly chasing after. And I think at the end of the day, today I was sitting for a number of hours and I wrote 21 pages of a new book in one day. I don't know if anybody realizes that's a lot of pages to sit
That's a
and
lot of
just,
writing.
that's a lot of writing to sit and just flow. But can I tell you, Leslie, it felt like magic. It was it was true pure bliss to just sit and let it all come out and feel in the moment and exist in the moment. And I stopped for a minute at some point and I thought to myself, this is what brings me joy, and it's nothing special. It's nothing that interesting to any other person, but to me, I feel at home. So the things we do, knowing that we have this limited time here on earth, the decisions that we make, whether it's pursuing entrepreneurial pursuits, whether it's creative tasks, whether it's focusing on family life, whether it's being, oriented in self progress or fitness or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, none of us know how much time we have left. So you have to use it accordingly.
Absolutely. You got to do what works for you and what aligns with your purpose, and do it to the best. And kudos for the writing, man. I wish I had, your writing skills. I could write like you and be in. Maybe I need to come to Bali too, Sonia.
Listen, you're more than welcome to invest $168 million and I'll, produce whatever it is that you need me to bring to the table. That's for sure. But yeah, I do actually suggest everyone, listen, it's far. Okay. It took 46 hours for me to get here. Um,
Oh
I
wow.
ended up, yeah, I ended up getting routed on a route that I wasn't supposed to take because of weather issues. I was going to miss a connecting flight. So they ended up putting me on a different plane. I was supposed to connect through Singapore. And they said, all
Hmm.
we have right now is a 9 hour layover in Melbourne, Australia. And
Oh my goodness.
here's a little thing about alignment, Leslie. My parents are from Macedonia. When they left and came to America, the rest of my family, my parents, siblings, cousins, everyone, you know where they went? Melbourne,
Australia.
Australia.
Oh, nice.
So they
So you
said, you
got some
have a
time to
nine
visit
hour,
family.
they said, you have a 9 hour layover. I said, I'll take it. I saw 10 family members
Oh
in like a
wow.
6 hour window. I met a cousin I'd never
Nice.
met before, four nieces, and all of the spouses I'd never met before. It was
Oh wow.
okay, so I know everybody knows by now that, when my mom passed away a little over 2 years ago, I always credit these crazy things like me sitting in Bali right now to her sort of pulling
Yeah.
the strings. And
Mm.
I know that layover where I got to see her sister and my uncles and aunts and everyone
Mm.
else. I know that was her prepping me for this journey to come to Bali.
Oh, that's so nice. It's amazing.
But those are the things that matter.
It's funny how the world works, right?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I used to be someone who thought that we had a lot of clout in free will. And I do believe that in so many ways. But I'm not sure how many things in life are a coincidence sometimes. Sometimes I think that when you meet the people, like the way that you met your business partners and the way that I've met certain people, like yourself and like other guests that I have on the show, and even just starting this podcast, the stories of the alignment and the timing and the way things just click, you can't make that stuff up.
No, you can't. And that's the thing, right? That's also how you know you're on the right path, right? Because
Mm,
when you take one step, it feels like the universe takes 10,000 steps for you. But the most important thing is you got to take that first step, right? It's not one of those things where you sit down in your house and everything comes and meets you over there, right? For example, I had been working with my business partners at the same hospital for 2 years, right? But we had been having hi, hello, hi, colleague conversations, right? But it wasn't until I made that decision that I'm going to step on this journey of personal growth, right? And starting to learn on myself and then challenging myself. It's not like I changed. The only thing that changed was my attitude, right?
mm,
And when you change your attitude, now the world around you changes. So my attitude in the way I looked at things, the way I looked at work, the way I looked at life changed, and now I started becoming close to these people, and then now the conversation changed, right? So the
mm,
most important thing is you have to make that first step. You got to make that decision. This is the path I want to go to, and have that faith, right? That once you take the next step is going to show up. Like I have this great analogy of faith, right? Which I love a lot, right? Like imagine faith is like you get up one morning, you going on a journey, you decide to take a journey to a route that you're very familiar with. Let's say we met in Maryland, and you decide
mm-hmm,
one day that you're going to leave from Maryland and you're just gonna drive to Virginia Beach, right? You've been to
mm-hmm,
Virginia Beach before. You know
mm-hmm,
Virginia Beach exists, right? You
mm-hmm,
know it's there, right? That destination that you want to go to. Without a doubt, you have that faith that is there and you can get there, right? But as you get out from your house to drive to Virginia Beach, this huge storm starts. The cloud gets dark, right? And as you get in your car, you try to drive. All you can see is 100 yards ahead of you with your light, your
mm,
bright lights all on. All you can see is your 100 yards ahead of you. But you know that when you drive those 100 yards, your light is going to show you the next 100. And you just
mm,
keep going slowly. You just keep going
mm,
slowly because you know without a doubt that Virginia Beach exists. And all you got to do is just take those 100 yards. right? That's how
So
life works.
if you know that end destination is where you're supposed to be, if you know
At
that's
the
where
end,
you belong.
and the end destination exists because
Mm,
by the time you have that idea in mind, it already exists because even if you haven't done it, somebody else has already done it. So that destination exists, right? So you gotta have the faith that wherever you want to go, it exists and you're going to get there. And you're
mm,
not going to know how because a lot of us, especially a lot of us that come from the professional world, we want to know it all before we even take the first step. It's like you want to know all the symptoms your patient is struggling through before you design
yep.
your anesthesia plan, right? In life and in business, it doesn't work that way. All you just got to know is that you have a patient. And
That's
you
a fact.
figure it
And
out.
and that's something that I tell people all the time. I say you can't if you're somebody who is okay, so I am very type A at the hospital, but I'm not very type A outside because I recognize the fact that number one, shit happens. Things happen in life. You're going to have to pivot. You can't ever achieve high levels of success without failing. You're going to
Oh,
fail
without
at
that.
something. You're going to fail at something. And I listened to a podcast with Stephen Bartlett, and he described failure as really just a way of ascertaining evidence. It's a way of gathering data. You collect enough data points in your failures to adjust and plan accordingly. But if you are paralyzed by the fear of failure and you want to know A, B, C, D, E, F, and G without being able to sort of be flexible, I think it's almost nearly impossible to achieve that really great high level of entrepreneurial success. Because at some point, you just have to have faith, like you said, in the fact that the next 100 feet ahead of me are what I can see, and that's enough for now.
Absolutely correct. And that kind of aligns with what I listened to one of my mentors, Alex Omozi, says. It's like in entrepreneurship, there are only two possible outcomes. You either succeed or you give up before you succeed, right?
Mm,
Failure is just like a touch point along the way. It's like you have this journey. Failure maybe is just a little bump. You know, when you fail, you know that you got to redirect, right?
mm,
Redirect because at that point of whatever you call failure, at that same point, right, exists the opposite of that failure, which is like what you need to do next to move in the opposite direction. But
mm,
if you're so caught up in like that particular point in time and not looking about maybe the lesson that you need from learn from it, what you need to see to keep moving forward, then you get stuck or you pull back, you know. And a lot of times it's like you go into it with this fear, with all this pressure from everybody around you. And then you anytime any kind of obstacle that you meet, it goes back, oh, I told you so, you cannot do this. Why are you doing this, Sonia? You know, you gotta go back to doing what is predictable. Who do you think you are? You know. So
yep.
that's where failure really gets us because the opinion of others puts a meaning to it that is not necessarily true. So you just gotta reframe it and then just keep going.
It's, there's, I'm sure you hear this all the time, and it's something that I hear frequently, and to the point that it's almost like I like joke about it. How many times in your life has somebody looked at you and said, "Man, you're so lucky"?
Oh, a lot of times. And I accept it. I
Mm-hmm.
am lucky. I'm lucky to be living
Mm-hmm.
the life that I'm lucky that
Right.
I found
Right.
that I found it that I found absolutely I am lucky. I consider myself very lucky, but
Sure.
luck alone does not account for anything. We are
Sure.
all lucky, but you got to put in the
You
work.
know, the harder we work, the luckier we get. And it's
Absolutely.
there's always this balance of, you know, I do my best, especially the last few years since post COVID. I've really taken to practices of gratitude and acts of gratitude and making it a daily practice. Literally every single day, I journal or I write and I express gratitude out loud to myself in my iPhone, wherever the case may be. And you know what blessings you have in your life, but you also know what it took to get there. And I think when you get to a position like yourself, when you say, I'm stepping away from my role in the hospital, I'm a true entrepreneur now, I'm fully invested in my business, it's very easy for others to look at where you stand now without considering where you came from. they don't know all the pieces that it took for you to get there.
Absolutely, they don't. And unfortunately, that's how human nature works, right? We focus so much on the end result and not really seeing every journey what it took, you know. So that's why or whenever I have the opportunity to speak to people, I get to let them know, you know, it's it's really fun, it's enjoyable, but it's not a walk in the park. It requires a lot of work, right? Over these
Mm,
years, while I was working full time as an anesthesia provider, I put in a lot of work, right? I did not nothing comes to you from sitting down. But again, that's why I said in the beginning that you have to want whatever it is,
mm.
you have to want it, right? It doesn't matter how good or how beautiful we say it is. If you as an individual you do not want it, you're not going to go after it. But it does take a lot of work, like anything in life. I talked about the faith part. There's a other part to it to get anything that you want in life, and that is a massive action, right? When you
Mm,
have unwavering faith that wherever you want to go exists, right? The next piece is like how much action you take towards that, right? For example, like the analogy I gave, you could have gotten out of your car, you know, Virginia Beach exists and it's raining. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit in the house for like 30 minutes and let this rain
mm,
die down a little bit before I go out, right? Or you keep going, right? Or you could have been driving down that road and maybe it got too stormy. You pulled out by a gas station and said, "Let me wait another few hours to go." But the other person would be like, "You know what? I'll keep going. I'll keep pushing. It doesn't matter what obstacle I face. I'll keep going." So the amount of massive action that you take is going to determine how fast you get to your goal,
mm.
how
That
fast you
is a
get to that
fact.
how fast you get to that destination. So the destination exists, right? The work gets you there. Without the work, you're always going to know it exists, but you're never going to get there.
You won't get there. And I think a lot of people confuse consistency with discipline. Being disciplined and being consistent are different in the sense that you don't necessarily have to show up and give 100% every single day, but you do have to show up every day. You do have to give
You
something
just have to
every
show up.
single day. And, I can't tell you how many times I've said to myself, man, I'm just not feeling inspired. And, it's one of those great excuses as a creative type where you could say, I've got writer's block. I don't want to do it today. Writer's block, listen, full disclosure, writer's block is bullshit because
Yeah,
writing and creating is like flexing a muscle. And even if all you do is write or create one sentence or do one thing on your to-do list or take one step on that treadmill or do one small change in your daily life, it's you showing up. And by showing up, you've set the bar. You now are able to maintain that consistency so that next time, hopefully, you can show up and write two sentences or take two steps or whatever the case may be.
absolutely. You have to show up. Doesn't matter. Just keep showing up. And we are all human, right? It's not gonna be 100% every day, but
Mm,
give it something. Put in a little bit here. You know,
yep.
there's some
Yep.
days are better than others, but just keep going.
What advice would you give to someone who perhaps is like yourself, whether they're in healthcare or not, but there's someone who's saying, I want to self teach myself finance and investing or business practice. What is your advice to them? Where do you begin? Where do you even start? There's so many resources out there. There's so many things out there. Where do you start?
Start with a book, right? Get a book and start reading a book in whatever area of
Mm,
finance that you want to go into. Me, the one book. Now, a lot of people started with Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it made a lot of sense to them.
mm,
For me, the book that got me started on this journey was another book by Robert Kiyosaki called Second Chance at Your Money in Your Life. And
mm,
that was a book that really answered a lot of the questions that I had at that time, and then gave me a doorway to walk towards, and I started walking through it. So I'll say start with a book. Second Chance is a good book. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book. Killing
mm,
Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson is another great book that I recommend. So start with that book, then get out of your circle.
mm.
If you do not have that result that you have that you want, get out of where you are and go out and start networking with others. Go out
That
to other
is,
circles, go meet other people that are doing it. when I wanted to start in real estate, I'll go to real estate networking events, and I'll go over there and I see all these young guys. Like I remember one day I met this guy, and we were talking, and he wanted me to write something down for him. I wrote it down for him, and he was telling me, he really cannot spell well, because he got out of school at a very early age, but he's very good with his hands. And now he owns like a portfolio of like $17 million worth of real estate at that point in time.
Wow.
And I remember going back and sitting in my car, and I'm like, I got this all wrong. I have this master's degree, fancy paper on the wall, and I could write whatever English you want me to write, but I am broke. I have hundreds of
Hmm.
thousands of dollars in student loans.
Student
I
loans.
can't.
Yeah, of
I
course.
gotta put myself in the hospital every day. I gotta spend all these hours just so I could take care of my family. Like,
Hmm.
what did I not get right? Right? So that's what that networking does to you, right? It shows you
It it
people that are
opens your
walking in your
eyes.
path. Exactly, because when you
It
see
opens
others
your
that are
eyes.
doing what you're doing, and you realize that they don't have two horns in their head, they don't have five hands, you realize that you too can do it. So read, go
It's
out there, and then take action.
such great advice. And this is where we'll sort of leave it off. I always tell people to be nice to everyone because you don't know who you're talking to. You
Oh,
don't know who
absolutely.
you're going to meet. You know, I met I've met Uber drivers and people on my travels and people at restaurants through just being pleasant and nice who have ended up being major contacts in my life and people who I can turn to and who have become friends. You just don't know. And when you look at life as one adventure, this can be such a great surprise. It changes everything. It
Oh,
turns it
it
into
does.
pieces of a puzzle that come together.
Absolutely. Life is so much fun. It's all about the perspective, right? And
Mm,
because it's the same life we live. Some people look at it one way, others look at it the other way. So it's all about the way you look at life that's going to determine the kind of life that you live and how you go about your life. So yeah, it's all about the
mm.
perspective for sure.
Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today on the Sleeping with Sonia podcast. I think that this is going to leave people with such a fresh perspective and a sense of optimism. It's not this mentality of the grind will kill you. It's, you know what? This can be fun and rewarding. It's going to be challenging, but you're going to gain so much about it. So, in the show notes, we're going to make sure to include all of your information about Excite Capital and how people can get involved and anything else that it is that you want to share with us.
No, I'm just just really grateful to have the opportunity to share this story and to share what we do with others. And again, I'm grateful to be on this journey and to be here. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm Leslie Awasom everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I do a lot of content on LinkedIn as well. And if you are interested in becoming a multifamily investor or learning how to invest in multifamily properties, reach out to us, www.excitecapital.com, and it's going to be on the show notes. We're more than happy to help in any way.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for being here with us today. And thank you all for listening. Please make sure to check out Leslie Awasom on all of his platforms. You will learn something, you will be inspired, and hopefully you'll make some money too. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Until next time.